MarcelloMania, episode Thierry Henry. If you know, you know. What a time to talk. Coming off the Final Four, Wrestlemania, and it's Masters Week. Great episode here. Hope you enjoy. All right, a two-time guest now, Pat Lelecki, back in the house. MarcelloMania, his second time. The last time we brought him on was very similar. We were talking some wrestling and some golf. This time we got a little basketball mixed in. There's so much going on right now. We could stomp on the Lakers' grave. We could do a whole lot of things. But first off, thanks for coming back on. And after we get rolling, we're gonna jump right into college basketball.
Phil, thanks for having me. Very honored to be a two-time guest of MarcelloMania.
There we go. And obviously you're a bit of a Tar Heels fan, so it's kind of fitting to have you on. And it feels like ages ago, just the way the sports world runs. But we have to go back to the Final Four game on Saturday. And just the tournament as a whole, Carolina was just playing as hot as any team could coming in. And Duke kind of turned the corner. They looked pretty shaky, ACC tournament, all that. And then they started to roll. So obviously Carolina comes away with the victory, but going into that, those were two teams that were really playing at the top of their games.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the overall NCAA tournament this year was fantastic, right? I mean, the St. Peter's story, St. Peter's story was awesome. Carolina knocking off Baylor, beating UCLA, and then, I mean, the ultimate matchup, Duke Carolina, first time ever in the NCAA tournament, let alone the Final Four. Coach K's last season, I mean, couldn't have gone. I mean, you couldn't have scripted it any better. I mean, if you're Turner, having the rights, putting it on TBS, they lucked out. It was the matchup that everyone wanted to see, and kind of, I mean, with the way college basketball has been, really, it made it must watch. So you couldn't have asked for a better game, and then, like you said, Carolina, hot going in, right? One of those teams that either plays down to the level of their opponent or can play up. I mean, they could lose anyone, beat anybody. That's their team. That's their makeup all year long. Duke getting just hot, looked very dominant after losing to Carolina, losing to Tech in the ACC championship. You didn't know what you're going to get going into the tournament. And Coach K and his team, I mean, they looked really strong and looked like a formidable opponent that, I mean, honestly, Duke, Kansas looked like the final when that game started.
Yeah, no, and the way everything unfolded, like you said, it couldn't have been written any better. How did you feel going into the game? Because, everyone's got friends on both sides. You got Duke fans, Carolina fans. All the diehards that I talked to from both sides were just really, really nervous because nobody wanted to live down losing to the other team on that stage.
Yeah. So the way that I felt going into it was this. I teased Kansas and I teased Carolina. So I took Carolina to plus 8.5 and I teased Kansas down to like a pick 'em because I thought Kansas would easily beat Villanova, which they did, with Villanova losing. They lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. They lost one of their best players. Even though Jay Wright, I think, is the best coach in college basketball right now. I didn't think they had a chance to win. They're not deep enough. I thought Carolina had a chance to keep it close, but I was very leery that, are they going to be able to do it? So, I rooted for them, thought they had a chance, but when money was on the line, I took the points. So they surprised. I mean, they played great. I mean, Manic, Baycott, and, you've got, Love and you've got Davis. I mean, they've got a strong five.
Mm-hmm.
And Love had 28 in that game, had a huge three to seal it with, after the kid from Duke, it was Williams, missed those free throws. Yeah. I mean, he played a great game. Davis gave you 18. And Baycott being a native Richmonder, I mean, it was fantastic to see the guts that he had when he went down with that injury to come back in and gut it out. I mean, that was, he had 7 straight doubles after that game and, put up 11 points, 21 rebounds, went down, came back in. I mean, and it was your prototypical classic Duke Carolina game. I mean, the last 2 minutes, you saw 3 threes. They were trading threes going back and forth. And Carolina came out on top, which as a Carolina fan, I was very happy to see. as a basketball fan, it was classic Duke Carolina in on the biggest stage, and you couldn't have walked away any happier just being a basketball fan.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the 21 rebounds, that was just almost mind blowing for me. I know Baycott's a great player, and as you mentioned, a Richmond guy, so we have a little inside scoop there. But the 3 pointers seemed to be the difference. Carolina knocked down 10. Duke only had 5, and of course that Caleb Love three that kind of put the nail in the coffin. Before then, if you're a Duke fan, if you're just a casual fan rooting for overtime, you think maybe there's something. But when he drained that three, I mean, everyone kind of knew it was over.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just a great game, and that three was the dagger. And Duke played great, and they were in it. Carolina got up, they came back. I mean, it was just again, you couldn't have asked. Having watched all the Duke Carolina games every year, right? You watch, you watch both games, right? There's one in Feb, there's one in March. You watch them, and then you hope that they meet again in the ACC tournament. Maybe you get 3 games, right? Well, this year you only got the 2, but then the third one happened in, I mean, again, the Final Four. I mean, it just couldn't have happened any better. I mean, you feel bad for Coach K. Again, I'm not a K guy, being a Carolina guy, but he is a great coach. He has done a tremendous job with that university and with that program. And then with what he's done with USA basketball, winning 3 gold medals, coaching pros, getting guys like Kobe and LeBron to respect him and want to play for him. I mean, you might not like him as a UNC guy, but he is a hell of a coach and has had a fantastic career.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard a lot of that too, which, the rivalry is intense. That's one thing, but to see kind of the mutual respect, at least of Coach K's career, it's going to be interesting to see. Hubert Davis looks like a phenomenal choice right now. So it'll be interesting to see what Shire does moving forward. And yeah, just so much credit to North Carolina. I mean, they truly earned it. And going into the national championship, we're kind of ACC territory. With my line of work, I've been to Chapel Hill a couple times in the last few years, so I felt like I knew Carolina a lot better. I'd watched Kansas some. I knew they had some high end talent. I wasn't sure, and you mentioned it, the Villanova game. It was unfortunate, but once Jones went down, I mean, you're not going to beat a team like Kansas when they have 5 days to prepare when one of your key players goes down. So that was unfortunate, but I was pulling for Nova just because I like Jay Wright, much like you. But the Kansas Carolina game, I mean, what a tale of 2 halves, really. It started off, I think it was 7-0, and it felt like Kansas could run away with it earlier, but then North Carolina reeled it back in, and I thought they showed a lot of composure, and it's really a reason that they were there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, Kansas jumped out to that early lead, and I was watching the game with my son, and I was like, oh, this is not good. And then Carolina just turned it on, and they played like they did against Baylor, how they did against Duke at certain times. And they jumped out to that, 15-point lead at half. And you really thought, all right, they look good. But again, it's sports, right? I mean, we're Patriots fans, 28-3 against the Falcons, Red Sox being down 3-0 against the Yankees. Anything can happen. So if you're a sports fan, you're not comfortable with a 15-point lead with 20 minutes left to go in the game. And where, for me, Kansas, where you have to give Bill Self and those kids credit, is they really made great defensive adjustments as a coaching staff and as players. And they put pressure on the ball. And then they really moved the ball around the perimeter offensively. And they've got some really good shots that led to that 30-10 run that, I mean, pretty much gave them, the lead.
Yeah.
And that's a credit to Bill Self as a coach. But then also just the players. I mean, Abaji, McCormick, who had foul trouble, stayed in there. I mean, he was a beast against Nova, and he helped seal the game against Carolina. And then you had Remy Martin, which is a great name for anyone. Yeah. Parents, I mean, unbelievable name choice there. I mean, he hit some clutch threes down the stretch that just, got Carolina on their heels. And at the end of the day, Carolina played a great game against Duke. There's a lot of emotion spent there. Baycott playing on that bum ankle again, then re-injured it. Love was hurt for a while and working through his ankle. And poor Brady Manick looked like he got the crap kicked out of him and probably had a concussion 3 or 4 times by some of the shots he took. So, at the end of the day, Kansas was the better team. They're the 1 seed for a reason. Carolina made a fantastic run as the 8. And, to me, the better team won. I mean, just the talent and the depth. They have a little bit more depth than Carolina. So, at the end of the day, Kansas, fantastic win. Um, you know, Bill Self is a great coach, and Carolina has nothing to hang their heads about. And if anything, Armando Bacot, again, a double, his eighth double in a row on a bum ankle. And, you can't say enough about the Carolina program, where it's going to be with Hubert Davis in the future.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And it's so funny. A guy like Brady Manick, Oklahoma finds his way to Chapel Hill. I mean, they didn't win a title, but you kind of feel like Tar Heel fans are just going to be big Brady Manick fans. It seems like when Hubert Davis really started to go to him more on the offense, that's kind of when the Carolina team like flipped the switch this year, because they were a little up and down to start. But I mean, and you hit on, I think I was wondering if they ran out of gas a little bit at the end, but at the end of the day, you lose to the number one seed Kansas. Like you said, you can't hang your head.
Yeah, you can't. And you think about it too. I was looking at the stats. I mean, I think Love and Davis only made one 3-pointer that whole game.
Yeah.
You think about what they did against Duke and what they did all tournament. Manick made some threes in the first half, but their shooting was not very good. And again, they're a team that plays 5 players, and then they played Puff Johnson, had to come in for Bacot and some other foul trouble throughout the game, and he was puking on the court.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're only 6, they're probably 6 deep, 5.5 deep at best. At the end of the day, I mean, Kansas has more depth, and they've got some really good players. I mean, Abaji was the most outstanding player in the tournament. He didn't have the greatest game, but he made some shots. Remy Martin, again, I mean, that kid, just little point guard, just made some great threes. I mean, unbelievable, just clutch shots. And then McCormick, the big guy,
Yeah.
I mean, just he was strong down the stretch. The last 2-3 minutes, he really helped seal the game. And it was a fantastic Final Four in general. I mean, you had the Villanova game wasn't great, but Carolina Duke was fantastic. Kansas UNC had you on the edge of your seat. As a basketball fan, you could not have been if you watched those games, you felt like you used your time very wisely and not doing other things and watching that basketball.
The worst is when you get to a big game and it's just a dud. So, casual basketball fan, obviously, if you have a rooting interest, you want your team to crush the other team, but everybody else is, excited for it. When I have no pull either way, if it's a big game, Final Four, I'm going to watch it. So you couldn't have scripted it better, again, in the sense, some blue blood programs, Roy Williams, Kansas to North Carolina, he's in the house. It was awesome. And you look at the stat lines, a lot of guys, 10, 15 points, 4 or 5 guys spread out through both lineups. So it was really good team basketball too. And you tend to get that more at the college level, but it was team basketball with some exciting players. And really just, we could keep going on, but we got a packed show. So right behind you, I see a little squared circle action. I like what I'm seeing back there. We're going to start right on that cue. Wrestlemania. Now they shifted going to the 2-night deal. I like it some of the time. We talked a little bit before, like you, a lot of people now go on the 2 TV setup, but you're obviously going to be focused on the Final Four unless there's a downtime or post match. So Saturday, I had it on the whole time, but was only really paying attention. And we talked about it. The one time I unmuted the TV during the game was when Cody Rhodes came back.
Yeah, I mean, Saturday night as a sports fan was great. It was 3 TV set up in this house. We had the Bruins on, we had WrestleMania, and then we had the Final Four, right? So, had the boys, we were watching. And yeah, I mean, the first time we unmuted it was Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins. It had been teased. You didn't know if you're going to get night 2 or night 1. You don't know. Love the 2-night approach. There are a lot of good wrestlers right now, right? Whether it's AEW, WWE, and you heard it. You didn't know if Undertaker was going to be that opponent, because if you watched his retirement speech, he said, never say never, put on the gear. So you're like, it's a little tease. He's going to come back, right? And then the music hit. And it couldn't have been any but better, because it was the American Nightmare music where he built his brand, right? He left WWE, Stardust, that hokey gimmick, went to Ring of Honor, AEW, made himself this huge superstar, and he came out with the right gear, the right music, and it was a hell of a match. Couldn't have put him against anyone better. Seth Rollins is one of the best in the business, and it took what, 3 crossroads and a bionic elbow to knock him out. It looked like they beat the hell out of each other. He had a knot on his head, and you can see he was very emotional coming back. So the storytelling, for not having a story or build to it, the in-ring storytelling for that match was perfect, and I can't wait to see how he's used going forward.
I totally agree. And not that anyone, with a brain thought WWE was ever going to go anywhere, but Cody Rhodes leaving, starting another company, and then coming back 2 years later, the way he did it just goes to show you AEW, I think, is fantastic for the business. And there's going to be times where it's probably better, but WWE is always going to be that place where the big names tend to play. And I thought it was awesome. And Rollins, as you mentioned, perfect person to put him with. Those two are great in the ring, athletic. They're kind of different size. I'm curious to see you. They teased kind of a title push. They also brought Rollins out on Raw, so we'll see where they go with that. But that was awesome. I love seeing it. The other big thing that everyone was talking about after night one was, of course, Stone Cold and KO. Now, they built that pretty well. I kept tuning in leading up to. I was like, all right, well, Austin's got to show up to one of these shows, and they played it out all the way till you got to Dallas on Saturday night. What was your reaction? The way it went down, because they teased it as just a show. Did you think they were going to do anything more?
So I'll say this: as Stone Cold is my all-time favorite wrestler, so I just had high hopes that he was going to do more than just the show. And I read a lot about it. So when they started, I thought the show that they did, where they were talking and Owens was talking his trash and Stone Cold was doing his, was fantastic. When the glass broke when he made his first entrance, to see my kids' reaction, I mean, they were throwing like Miller Lights at me, like, "Dad, do the Stone Cold, do the Stone Cold." And I'm like, "Look, the neighbors are here. Maybe we should just watch the match." But Stone Cold was like my era, right? I was in high school. Then he ended right as I was like in college. So loved it, and I thought the match itself was perfect. I mean, he's old, right? He's 57 years old. There's only so much he could do. He took some bumps that I didn't think he would take.
Yeah.
But he was able to get his spots in. And at the end of the day, I think it was great for him in his home state of Texas to have one last match, or whatever, street fight, right, in front of the fans, and go out, on top, which, credit to WWE, and even a bigger credit to Kevin Owens, who to me is one of the best in the business. Who got to fight his boyhood hero, when he was a young kid, and got to fight Stone Cold Steve Austin, and take some stunners, and he uses the stunner. I mean, a great piece of storytelling, very little physicality leading up to it, so you were just hoping you were going to see something, and they delivered. It was a fantastic match, and again, a great way to end night one of WrestleMania, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's been a few weeks since I did the episode, but last episode, we came on and we got the feeling. I had my friend Drew on. He said, I think Stone Cold's going to do more than just show up, and that's exactly what it was. And it was perfect way to cap off Saturday night. You had the Final Four, and then you got a solid 30 minutes or so of WrestleMania and Stone Cold night one. That's the time to bring him on. You got to figure maybe in a year or two, he's obviously going to be Hall of Fame headlining, even though they let just about everybody in. That's a different discussion.
Yeah.
On the Hall of Fame. So we're gonna shift to night two because I texted my friend. I had a couple Steve Weisers, but on Sunday I said, I feel bad for people that aren't wrestling fans because like this is a fun weekend. It's a fun day, and Sunday really really delivered. And again, with 2 nights, with us talking the Masters, we're not gonna hit on everything. But I thought the match that they led off with, the 6-man tag, was absolutely fantastic. Some of the moves and the acrobatics they had with RK Bro and the Street Profits, and then Alpha Academy, and then post match we'll talk about as well. What did you think of the way they let it off?
I thought it was great. I mean, when you start something off, right, you want to get the crowd engaged, and that's what that first match needs to be. It needs to be something that's going to get them going. And RK Bro has been a fantastic tag team. I mean, Randy Orton looks like he's having more fun than he's ever had in the WWE. He's even said it in interviews. Riddle's about as entertaining as they get with his antics. The Street Profits are fantastic, and then Alpha Academy is a really good antagonist for the both of them.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was a good match. There were a lot of really good spots. And then the ending, RK Bro retains, but then the Street Profits, are they going to turn heel? Like, I mean, you're kind of waiting.
Yeah.
You're waiting for them to turn heel, and they just didn't. It's probably going to happen sooner rather than later. But they celebrate, and then Chad Gable comes in, and they bring out Gable Stevenson. I mean, that guy could be the next Brock Lesnar potentially. As far as his makeup and his physicality, right, and his amateur wrestling. So the fact that he got a spot at WrestleMania was even better. So they could not have done the first match any better. I thought it was a really good way to kick off the show.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was fantastic bringing in Gable Stevenson at the end. And as you mentioned, the Alpha Academy is just Chad Gable when he came up and he smacked that cup away. The way the camera was so zoomed in, so he came out of nowhere. I mean, I thought that was fantastic. Again, we're gonna jump ahead a little bit. The Jackass match with Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn. Again, it's WrestleMania. I texted a couple people. I was like, this match is gonna be terrible. Like, I've seen a lot of celebrity matches. Most of them are pretty bad, and I was thoroughly entertained. I don't know, the creativity there. I thought they nailed it.
I couldn't agree more. So for that match, it's my youngest son's birthday, Owen, who and Owen was there, and Tom's in there, right, and my dad are sitting in the living room after dinner watching wrestling with the boys and I. And these are two guys that would have nothing to do with WrestleMania, right? And they were laughing their ass off. when Party Boy came out and he's in the thong, my dad was dying because he's watched Jackass with me before, and he and then Wee Man comes out and body slams. I mean, body slams Sami Zayn. I mean, it was awesome. The big old mousetrap contraption they had. I mean, as far as what it was pure comedy. It was supposed to be entertaining, keep people engaged. And, again, you have to give Sami Zayn, the professional wrestler, credit. He did his job. And that's not always easy to do because, some people want titles and this and that, but that's why he's a valuable wrestler. I mean, he made Johnny Knoxville and all the other guys, Wee Man, Scott Pontius, look really good. And it was a very entertaining match for what it was. And I laughed my ass off. I thought it was great.
No, 100%. I texted people after the match. I said I was dead wrong. That was awesome. And kind of staying in that entertainment vein, a guy who's worked his way into the ring, Pat McAfee. Obviously, like, a lot of people are McAfee fans. I'm a McAfee fan. Yep. But he's had 2 matches now. But I'm just amazed by what he did the guy's pretty impressive considering he hasn't been doing this his whole life. I mean, he would tell you otherwise. He would say he had a few drinks and bought a ring years ago, and he's had one. But I mean, what'd you think of the Austin Theory McAfee?
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, Pat McAfee to me is fantastic. He's had 2 matches before, like Adam Cole, and then did the War Games match, and he did a lot of high spots in that War Games match. He did some spots. I mean, again, my dad was still around when that match came on, and he was like, "Oh my God, did he just do that like suplex?" I mean, it was insane. So he took a lot of chances. And again, Theory did a great job selling it. The match was great. I remember I watched the McAfee show when Vince was on. So everyone was saying it was going to be Vince versus McAfee, which that was never going to work. But when he put in Theory, that was great. I thought both of those guys, I mean, Pat McAfee is a great guy in that SummerSlam, WrestleMania. You need a name. You want to get something in there, get some buzz, just because of who he is and what he does with DraftKings, FanDuel, and then, his show. So, that was good. I thought it was a great match. And then you got, Vince got some ring time in, which you knew was going to happen. And then boom, the glass hit again. And Stone Cold came out a second time, and he gave the worst stunner in the world to Vince. Austin Theory sold it like he was The Rock.
Yeah.
Which was unbelievable. It was a great sell. I mean, when you saw that one, you're like, that was great. And then he got McAfee, and the best was when they panned to McAfee and he's just guzzling the beer down on the ground. I mean, again, look, McAfee's not a professional wrestler. But he's a hell of an entertainer. And he did a fantastic job. They couldn't be more happy with having him on SmackDown and then what he did at WrestleMania.
I think they could have a highlight reel over the years of Vince's terrible stunner sells and then everybody else. But McAfee did a great job selling his stunner. He kind of laid back, and
Oh yeah.
he seemed to have the time of his life. And I think wrestling fans can be pretty particular, but I think most of them just pick up that he's having so much fun doing it, and he gets the crowd involved. He gets a lot of people that don't have anything to do with wrestling tuning in because they're fans of his show. So smart by the WWE to kind of capitalize on that. I just thought it was really awesome. Is really well done. Keeping moving forward, the next match before the main event, AJ Styles versus Edge. I thought they built that very well. Obviously, the ending was surprising. That's something moving forward. But Edge kind of turning heel the way he did, being pretty aggressive with AJ Styles. AJ Styles is very much in that vein with Seth Rollins, Rhodes, where they're going to put on exciting matches. I'd like to get your thoughts on what you thought about that match.
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job building it, right? Just by the chair shot, knocking AJ out for a few weeks. I mean, that was great. There was talk, and I'd seen talk about, Edge was going to, have this heel stable. You would think maybe they saved that for Raw Monday night, but they used it in WrestleMania, and I don't have a problem with it. I thought Edge and Styles put on a great match. I mean, if you get Edge in a match, it's going to be good. I mean, you're going to get no worse than a B. Most of the time, you're going to get like an A minus A, 100 most of the time. AJ Styles is probably the best or one of the best workers today, and he wanted that. He's not chasing titles. He wants certain matches, right? He wants certain matches with certain people, and they put on a hell of a show. And again, going into the main event, you got to keep people engaged and keep them going. And it was a great match, and they ended it with Damian Priest coming out, and they're kind of continuing the feud, right? They started it on Monday night. I mean, they took out AJ and they could have done some damage to him, but they let it go. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And, does AJ build a stable? Does he not, to combat Edge and Damian Priest and whoever else they add? Because there's a lot of names there they're talking about, which will be really interesting to see.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned AJ Styles. He really is like he's a big enough name where he's secure. He does, yeah, sure, title will be great, but he's going to be one of the last 2 or 3 matches of most shows because he's that caliber. He had the match with Undertaker, a WrestleMania 2 ago. He really creates those big moments right now. And the thing that I like about Edge obviously he had that long, part of his career where he couldn't compete. So I always wonder in the back of my head, how long is he going to keep doing this? So when they say, all right, now he's working with a stable, in my head, I'm like, awesome. He's going to be around for a little while. So that's what I took from that. At first, I was like, this is weird. And I was like, okay, this is going to be great because he's going to stick around. Edge in the business is a good thing. So I agree. They can do a lot of different things with AJ, what he builds up. Ending was a little different. Edge sold it very well, kind of looked confused. And then, they kind of joined together. That was fantastic. Another match I thought they built really well, considering how many months everyone knew it was going to happen. The main event, Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. And that is the one match I did go back and rewatch. At first, I think it's just because I didn't want the show to end. I was like, that wasn't that good. But I went back and watched it. I thought they did pretty well. It was a little longer than I thought. Sometimes you get those big guys, they're 5, 6, 7 minutes. It was closer to 12, 13 minutes. So I thought all in all it was good, and it kind of establishes Reigns as the guy, even though most people knew he is the guy carrying the water right now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was waiting for more in regards to when it ended, right?
Yeah.
And there's been some stuff out there that maybe someone was hurt, and that's why they had to end it the way they did. Was it the best match they've had? No. I mean, I think the WrestleMania where Seth Rollins cashed in Money in the Bank was probably their first match, was really good. But was it physical? Yes. Did they beat the hell out of each other? 100%. Was the build fantastic? The build was the best part. Heyman and Reigns are fantastic together, and then Cowboy Brock.
Yeah.
Again, look kind of like Randy Orton, right? Longtime vet, always been a heel, whatever it is, and he really played more of the kind of stone cold fun guy. Like, you get in my way, I'm going to mess you up, and everyone's going to love me. And he did that, and he did it well. And he was on the mic. I mean, how many times has Brock Lesnar been on the mic? Very few. He's always had Heyman, right? So to see him evolve as a character and show a different, different layers was great throughout, the whole build to their match. I thought it was a good match. I enjoyed it. And again, there are little things that happened, like with Reigns reaching for the rope and actually Heyman pushed the rope to him, that maybe some people didn't see. It was interesting. But yeah, I kept, when it ended, I was fine with the ending. I thought it was good entertainment, but I was like, man, we got another like 12, 15 minutes.
Right.
Is the Rock coming out? Like that's what because everyone knows what next year is. It's Los Angeles. It's Rock versus Reigns is what they've said. And I was just waiting like, does he come out tonight?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's only a matter of time. Like you said, it's, whether it's next year, like it's going to happen.
It's going to be Royal Rumble unless some movie things happen. But I mean, that's the one that Rock wants, Reigns wants, WWE wants. So they're going to try to make it happen. But overall, I mean, I credit to Reigns and Lesnar. They created a great story and they delivered. And again, like you said, they went longer than you would have maybe thought, going that, 12, 15 minutes. So it was a good match. And at the end of the day, WrestleMania this year was good. I mean, night one, I give it a B. Night two, I give it like an A minus. And the product looks a lot better. There are a lot of good matches we didn't talk about, whether it's the women's division with Becky and Belair, which was fantastic. Ronda and Charlotte ending the way it did. Who knows what happens there? And they've got a lot of really good pieces. And they've really, as an organization or as a company, they've kind of turned that corner where AEW is a good alternative. But at the end of the day, there's nothing better than WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and then Survivor Series. That's it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's great because I thought the Rumble to me was disappointing, but after that they started the build and they really delivered with WrestleMania. So it was awesome. And overall I agree with you. Saturday night was solid, especially considering they probably knew they were going against the Final Four, so they probably didn't throw everything at you Saturday. And Sunday I thought was very good. So overall, very, very happy, and it's always exciting to see what direction they go. Lesnar, is he going to take time off? I mean, he's not around 365, but he's awesome. He's there for the big moments. Reigns is going to be there. In the future, again, eventually it's going to be Rock Reigns. We all know that. So I love the way that they put some pieces into place moving forward. Now, you just got back from a trip, and it's going to be on everybody's mind. You were down in Augusta, Georgia. Now, the weather didn't quite go your way, but having never been, there's probably going to be some people listening, watching this that have never been. Tell me about your experience at Augusta.
We were there, so we had tickets Tuesday to the practice round, and we knew the weather was going to be dicey. So gates opened at 8, and we were there right when they opened, and we were there from about 8 to 11 before the horn sounded, and they told everyone we had to go. So we had 3 hours, and in those 3 hours, I saw everything that I wanted to see. Augusta National is the most beautiful golf course I've ever set foot on. I've set foot on some nice places. I've played nice courses, but just when you walk in there, it's a different vibe. It's a different feeling. When we talked last, I'd gone to the Ryder Cup, right? And the Ryder Cup was cool. But Augusta was just a different feeling. And the way that club runs the show was amazing. I mean, you walk in, you're in quickly, right? I mean, there's no cell phones. You can have a little backpack, which my son had, and on Monday and Tuesday you can have a camera. My brother-in-law had a camera, so we have some really great photos of holes, players, whatever it is. Food it was $2.50 or $3 for domestic beer. A sandwich is $1.50. I mean, I spent $40 on 2 trips for food and beer for everybody. I spent $40 like on one trip just for me at the Ryder Cup, just to put pricing into perspective. You don't wait on anything. Bathrooms, there's a line. They're directing men and women. You go here, you go there, and they're calling. We're in line. I was in line with my son. Like, I need 6. And we're like, 6. They have someone in there like guiding people to urinals, so like you're not waiting. I mean, it's insane. Who does that? The grounds are perfect. So in 3 hours, I saw every hole, walked amen corner, saw Tiger Woods come out to the practice range with JT and hit, saw Brooks, saw DJ, watched Billy Horschel, VJ Singh, former Masters winner, saw every hole, got photos in all the iconic spots that you would see on TV, saw Spieth on 18, hidden into the green. So, it was a very short trip, but it was without a doubt the most memorable that I've ever had, and I'm very thankful that I was able to go.
That's so awesome. And I know you're going to get back, obviously, but it's so cool. I mean, for so many people, myself included, that's on the bucket list. So it's one of those things you'll probably go back, but to check it off and have that experience, I mean, it's just all time. And it's Wednesday. We're going to roll this out in the morning. The next 4 days are just going to be awesome. It's the greatest regardless because it really kicks off the tour schedule in terms of the majors coming 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of how they roll them out. But a certain name has popped up, and it started with last week. The flight trackers going on. Tiger Woods is going. I mean, everyone is just going nuts with Tiger. What do you think about the way he's kind of played it this week? Because he probably could have come out earlier and said, "I'm playing." And it wasn't until yesterday that he said, "Yeah, I'm going."
I mean, I'm going to say this. Having walked the course in only the 3 hours that we did, and I think Colin did like 6,000 steps, or it was like 5 miles that we walked in 3 hours. Um, it's a lot, and it's very hilly. The greens, the contours, TV does not do that place justice. So when the Golf Channel, ESPN, raises concern about can he keep up and is it possible, it's valid, because if you haven't been there, it's really hard to see. So he looked really good hitting the ball in the range, and I don't think that's the problem. I don't think hitting the ball, chipping, putting, I think he'll be fine. It's if he can make the cut, which the field's less than most PGA Tour events, right? I think there's like 91 people in the field. PGA Tour events can have 150 something. So it's a watered down field. The question is, can his body hold up? And at 45, 46 years old, I think he's 46. I wonder, with the punishment that his legs and his back and everything have gone through, how does he do it? If he makes the cut and finishes 4 rounds, doesn't matter where he finishes. It's amazing. I don't think he's going to compete. I think the golfers that we have today, the younger guys, one of those guys will win. I think for Tiger, it would be just to play all 4 rounds and maybe scratch out a top 10 if he's lucky, top 15, top 20.
That's kind of my hope. And having never seen the course, I've heard it's very hilly. In the back of your mind, though, it's, Tiger knows the course better than anybody. So that could keep him hanging around. But the physicality of it, we'll see. I'm hoping if he can finish somewhere around 20, top 20, that I think that would be a big win. But it's just electric to have him back there. It's just brought so much buzz to the Masters, which didn't really need it. But looking at the rest of the field, you mentioned a few of the guys. You got Kepka, you got JT, you got DJ. Who are a couple of guys you think could be there at the end on Sunday?
Yeah. So we walked the course, and you look at, I mean, the Masters is a course. It's about, who's done what and where. So, if I was a betting man, which I am, top 10 locks for me would be like a guy like Cameron Smith, who's playing great now, right? And has played well at the Masters in the past. John Rahm's a top 10 lock. Kepka for me is a top 10 lock. Spieth, definitely, again, his game doesn't always translate to other courses, but it translates to Augusta when you look at his numbers. And then JT's been playing well. I don't think JT's going to win, but I like him, being in the hunt and, having a good round. At the end of the day, my winners who I think are going to win, I think a Cam Smith, a Xander Schauffele, who kind of choked it away last year in years past. I mean, he's due. And then Kepka, I mean, that guy just, all he does is play for majors, right? I mean, the guy, and that's what he said. So, and he looked really good. He's got new sticks. He's went with Shrixon on the irons. He's hitting the ball well, and this is what he prepares for. So those are the three guys that I really think have a good chance at winning outside of like a Rom, Spieth or a JT. But I think there are going to be some surprises. Like, I mean, Tony Finau is one of those guys to me that could creep in there and make some noise. I think Rory will be interesting to watch. I love Rory. I think he's definitely got top 5, top 10 potential. I'd love to see him right in the hunt on Sunday, because that would be amazing to see if he could get that, grand slam. Scotty Scheffler's been playing great. He's the world number 1. He makes cuts. I'm thinking like top 15, top 25 for him. And then, at the end of the day, I think someone like DeChambeau will struggle. And, I think the biggest surprise, which to me is not a surprise, is Tiger does not make the cut, right? I think that's the one where everyone's going to be watching. Is he playing that weekend? And if he plays the weekend and if he's in the hunt, it's going to be interesting to see how the other guys react. I don't think he's got the game or the health or stamina, but, he's hard to bet against. But yeah, my guys this weekend that I took to win, Cameron Smith, love his mustache, love his mullet, Scotty Scheffler, and then I hate Brooks's blonde hair, but I think he's got a really good shot too.
I completely forgot about the hair. But again, you're so right. He plays for the majors and he pops up and he's usually in the mix at the end. And I mean, this is why golf is so great, because you just threw out, 4 or 5 names that could very reasonably be in the mix. And there's always a surprise or two. There's always somebody random. They might fall off last day, but in the top 10, you get your old guys like Freddie Couples that sometimes hang around. So, I mean, it's just awesome. It's just a fantastic time of the year. Yeah, it stinks college basketball is over, but you got college basketball, you got Wrestlemania, we got baseball coming back tomorrow, we got the Masters, and then we got NHL, NBA playoffs. So I'm sure I'll have you again on soon. But with you just being in Augusta, Carolina, all that kind of stuff, it was perfect. So I appreciate you coming on again for another episode, Pat.
Well, I appreciate it, Phil. Look forward to be a 3-time MarcelloMania guy sometime in the future here, man. Congrats.
Absolutely.